My focus.
Welcome back to the Blindsiders. I am Ben. I'm joined here by Dylan and Brian. We're here to talk about episode 12 of Survivor 43. And what an episode, honestly.
Yeah, I'm really excited to hear everyone's takes on this for the first time. I guess I'll go first this time, Brian.
For those of you who are wondering why this is such a weird start, I forgot to hit record for the first 10 minutes of this podcast. So this is take 2. So if we seem like, we've heard this before from each other for the next 10 minutes, that is why. But we're going to try to give you, the goods, because it was good. It was going great. Maybe one of our best podcasts.
Yeah. A little behind the scenes stuff for people that aren't familiar with the biz.
Well, inside baseball.
Yes. Sorry, now I'm all thrown off. You can go ahead first, Brian.
No. Okay, so this was an insane episode. Not since probably for me, Millennials versus Gen X, Jay betraying Michaela. Have we seen a betrayal so brutal? It was great, though. I really appreciate Jesse as a player, as a villain, and his attitude where, some people, and even Jeff has pushed, this kind of narrative, it's about the experience. Even coming out here is, winning. That's not true, though. Winning is winning $1 million, and Jesse is going to win $1 million. I think we can say that pretty, okay, Jesse's going to win $1 million for his family, and Ben, I know you've said it. He might go down as one of the greatest winners of all time.
Yeah, no, I think that, at this point last season, Marianne was in basically the same spot where all she had to do essentially was get through the final 4, either by winning immunity, getting taken, or winning fire. And she would have the game wrapped up. Jesse's in basically the same spot. And I'm actually probably more confident that Jesse is the winner now than Marianne was last season. So yeah, I definitely want to start having the conversation now. Even though there's a 2% chance that we look really stupid in a week, but I think that the conversation should start happening now of where Jesse kind of ranks as a winner. Because for me, I think that he's probably looking towards my top 5. And at least as far as a winning game goes, we could talk about multiple season players, stuff like that. But as far as a 1-for-1 winning game, I think that he's nearing my top 5, especially after tonight.
Yeah, agreed. And like I said, I've been really desperate for somebody to finally make that move this season, because it seems like we had a lot of people talking about making the move and then not doing it, or last minute going back on it. And even last week, Jesse's plan of getting Carla to vote for Cassidy, ended up still voting Sammy out, was really genius. Sammy obviously threw that off. I was on the pod last week, so that's really one of the only talking points I had, other than the challenge. Challenge last week was great too. Anyway, to get back on to this episode, though, yeah, Jesse, we talked about at the very beginning of the season. He was one of the most featured people going into the season. So meta, we thought he was going to go really far, but his game has really evolved in the, like we said, all-time move to get someone to your number one confidant to give up their idol and then betray him. It's just it was just pure Survivor, and it's really nice because in the end, I respect the people that play the game the hardest, the most, even more so than players I like. And it's all aspects, but I think we all agree that strategic gameplay is something that we respect the most. At least I know I do. More so than social and physical. And I think that Jesse is really nailed it. And we probably should have saw it coming when we got the graphic play-by-play of how you blindside someone. Mm-hmm. I do agree. I'm higher. I'm more confident that he'll win this season than I was with Marianne at this point last season. I will say they have made a note that he's stinky with fire. So I guess that is something to watch. Obviously, he's going to make fire. He has an idol. I think unless there's something funky there, he still has Janine's idol to be played. So yeah, just overall really impressive. I liked it. I'm really happy with the pure emotion we got out of Cody too, being blindsided. Mm-hmm. There wasn't a whole lot of kumbaya. Really, you got me. Cody for sure felt like he had just lost $1 million, and Cody was the only thing standing in Jesse's way at this point, because Carla's game has just completely spiraled out of control the past 2 weeks. So yeah, kudos to Jesse. It's all coming together, and like you said, Brian, unless something wacky happens at the beginning of the next episode, I think that we have our 43 winner.
Yeah, it's like you said. Well, speaking of, also should mention Carla's idol cut flushed as well, to add even more to Jesse's resume, as if he needed any more on top of it. But yeah, they've really been burying Carla in the edit these last 2 weeks, especially this week. They've used kind of like a comedic irony approach, where like she'll say something and then they'll immediately show the exact opposite happening for her, and it's just like really brutal, like to the point where it's like there's no way she wins if they're gonna be showing stuff like that. Like there's no way.
Yeah, agreed.
Yeah, and on top of that, we have Carla in the last 2 weeks basically randomly being convinced to turn on her number one ally for like seemingly no cogent reason. Because like we'll talk about the move that Jesse makes here against Cody and like why I think it makes sense for him. But for Carla, going after Cassidy doesn't really make sense. And she made the call to do that and then failed now 2 weeks in a row to actually land that shot.
Yeah.
So like basically we have her completely losing track of what's going on in the game if she hadn't already, losing her number one ally completely because she'd been socially outplayed, still failing to get that move off now 2 weeks in a row, and basically playing her idol, getting tricked into playing her idol for no reason. Like obviously, like, you know, kudos, like it was a sick move to get her to do that. Like, you know, I'm not saying like, oh, she's so dumb to have fallen for that. Like, no, it was like beautifully executed, but she still played her idol for no reason, and it was a legitimately deliberate trick to do that for her. So like, yeah, she has nothing. I just don't know. Like I know there's like a contingency of like Edgic nerds out there who think that Cassidy still has a shot. I don't know like what brand of meth they're smoking, but like it's not happening. Like
no.
I think
this isn't Michelle Fitzgerald.
Yeah, I mean the only shot anyone has left is to somehow get Jesse out, obviously, and that would have to be through fire. And so I don't see it. But like I said, they've made a point to point out how bad Jesse is at fire making. So maybe that's where we're getting. I would say really, really disappointing if Jesse makes final and he doesn't win, and whoever one of the contestants left does. I don't see how that's possible. That I think that would rightfully draw a lot of criticism too. If I had to guess now, like my personal pick of who I think sits with Jesse at the end, I think it's gonna be Cassidy in a combination of either Gabler or Owen. I think Carla's probably the first one out beginning of next week.
Yeah, no, same here. And obviously we have like a lot that will probably do another twist. You know, with the 5 of them there. I think maybe in the preview, I don't know if you guys watched it, it seemed like Gabler had found something. So presumably, thanks Survivor for that. Gabler's the one who finds the twist at Final 5. But last year it was just an advantage in the final immunity challenge, or like second to last challenge.
I think it was the final 5 challenge.
There's 5 challenge.
There's absolutely no way it's an idol though on a new island.
No.
Right?
No,
There's no way
it's
they
probably
first one in there. Yeah.
So
that's what they've been doing. They did that even in 39. So like they've
the
last like handful of seasons they've thrown in like a challenge advantage around this point.
Yeah.
Which is
it's Dean with all his his trinkets. Yeah. Yeah, no, I mean this is very, very crazy. I am very like curious. Like you said, Ben, he's gonna go down probably as one of the top. I'm not curious. I'm excited afterwards to have like the discussions of like where did Jesse rank and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, I mean, I'm just blown away right now, quite frankly, at how well executed this was, because finding my train of thought as I'm going. But this is what I wanted to say. We talk a lot, and I bring it up a lot. You gotta, if you're gonna get your ally out, you need to pick the perfect moment, or it's not worth it, to the point where it's a completely huge detriment to your game. We talked to Ricard about, or we talked about Ricard doing that at the incorrect moment. We talked about Wardog doing that to Kelly at the wrong moment. This might be like all of it coming to fruition. Like finally somebody perfectly like saw the moment and took the shot and executed it perfectly. What do you guys think of that?
100% agree.
Mm.
Yeah. I couldn't put it better, honestly. Like just like perfectly executed. Yeah. And like the argument is you need to have runway. You need to have a path after you've made the move. And Jesse does, right? He has an idol at the final 5. So it doesn't matter. Like even if the other 4 all are like, oh yeah, the jury collectively orgasmed over Jesse in the last trial council. We have to get him out. They can't. So it doesn't matter. So like, yeah, perfectly executed. I don't really see any downside to him making this move, only upside. And yeah.
And in hindsight too, it's really like the only move, because I think like he fleshed out Cody spearheading getting Carla out in the way that he was going to, because Carla clearly was going to bite on the not playing her idol part. If spearheading that, then at that point you're now facing down Cody next week. I don't know. I think Cody knows that he has the other idol as well. I'm pretty sure. I don't know for sure. Like I don't know. That's like so much talk of idols. I don't know what's known. I think the group as a whole does not know that he has the idols. So I think that's going to be really fun next week when if he gets backed into a corner and when he does the shock value there. But yeah, it was really like the only move he had to make here, and it's I saw some people on Twitter like unhappy he turned, like not fully grasping what he did, unhappy that he turned into his ally. But he's painted the template of what you have to do now in these more aggressive seasons. I think we saw last year with Marianne of staying in the shadows, waiting to strike at the perfect time. And with this season with Jesse, we saw him kind of, in the passenger seat or, backseat driving a lot of the way. And then finally, he's ready to hop into the driver's seat. So I think that between this and Marianne last year, I think we've kind of molded what players have to do going forward. Because like once you start, jumping the gun way too early, you're done, you're out. So it's just really impressive. Jesse wasn't somebody that I personally was like the biggest fan rooting for. I liked everybody on this season that was left. I was really happy to see Sammy go last week because he was someone that I thought really just got way too ahead of themselves, and it was nice to see that play out the way it did. And like Carla is, I still think Carla's a good player. I just think that her game itself is just really unfolded. I like we just said, once you try to make a move at the improper time and don't have the pieces to do it, which is what she did, which is what happened last week, your game really just falls apart now. But Jesse did everything he had to do. It's just it's nothing but respect there. It's just so impressive.
Yeah, definitely. And to like add to that, Jesse's gotten everything he's wanted at every moment without people recognizing that Jesse's getting everything he's wanted.
Yep.
And that's so impressive to pull off.
Yeah, whose name didn't come up at all this round somehow, despite there only potentially being 3 people vulnerable at the final 6. It was like, oh, one of Owen, Jesse, or Gabler is possibly going to have to go if they play their idols. So I guess we have to decide: is it going to be Owen or is it going to be Gabler? And we're like, huh?
Crazy, so crazy.
Is it going to be the guy who might get 1 jury vote or the guy who won't get any?
Yeah, and we talked about it too. Like in our point of view, obviously our views highly shaped by the edit of the show where Jesse's being shown to probably win the game. We didn't necessarily see Cody as the person at the forefront of the Jesse Cody alliance, but clearly Jesse felt that he had positioned it to where Cody was the face of their duo, and him getting Cody out takes all the power from the moves that they made together and puts it only onto Jesse in magnificent fashion. And then, like you said, Ben, the jury had a collective orgasm over this move with the idol. Imagine next week they go in there, everyone's like, oh, we're gonna vote Jesse off. He made this amazing move, and Jesse whips out Janine's idol to save himself. They're gonna be, comatose from
looks over at Janine and the jury and is like, thanks for the idol.
Yeah, exactly. Like they're gonna be, it's gonna be insane.
Because you could tell. I don't think the jury has a full understanding of everything that just happened either.
No.
I don't think that they realize that he took his idol, because obviously Janine knows that Jesse has her idol, but I think obviously once Cody gets there, they'll be explained. The one thing I didn't like about Jesse, what you brought up earlier, is him saying, "Oh, I'll explain it to you later. I'll explain it to you another time." Like, it is pretty self-explanatory what happened, especially for Cody, who was the only one who probably fully understood what just happened. So I thought that was a little like forced. I was trying to, because when he started to say that before the votes were finished reading, I was trying to think of like, well, what did you just do that you're going to explain to Cody later if it's not voting Cody out?
I'll explain to you on the plane ride home.
Yeah, I'll explain to you when I get the $1 million. So that was weird, but yeah, I don't know. There's just no way Jesse doesn't win at this point unless he really fucks up and gets the fire and blows it there. There's just no way.
Yeah, no, and we'll see. I mean, like you said, Ben, there's a clear path. He knew it. It's not without risk, of course. He could get knocked out in fire. I doubt he will, but like, it's a very calculated risk where like there's more he can do now, where he has an idol to save himself at 5, doesn't even have to think about that, and then he has 2 ways to save himself at 4. Like, he has odds in his favor. It's not 100%, but it's at least like the definition of a calculated risk.
I think from a viewer's perspective too, of just how disappointing would that be of a final tribal of Cassidy, Owen, and Gabler, all players that I like, but players that probably don't deserve to win this season, because especially if you get Jesse out in fire making, then there really was nothing other than just purely winning the immunity at that point that really earned you that spot. Like I said, I like Cassidy, I like Owen, I like Gabler. Probably in that order too is how I would rank them and who I think would win. But just none. And also, like, same thing where if somehow Carla survives the next tribal when Jesse plays his idol, and she's somehow sitting there on final tribal and Jesse gets eliminated by fire, even then that's just like, well, Carla's the clear winner because nobody else could see that Carla was the one in second. It's just and I think that I'm probably thinking that we would get there is like insulting to the players, because it's just so stupid to have to get to that point. I just like refuse to believe it. So I'm not even like entertain that's how we get there. So yeah, the only way is Jesse losing in fire.
Yeah. So we'll see. I mean, crazy that because I was a little worried that, like, in this modern era of Survivor where everything's so short and quick, is it possible to play like a wire to wire game? Like, or are you just going to get cut at the first instance? And Jesse's showing it can be done. Win or lose, obviously we think he's going to win, but it can be done. You can like control everything wire to wire and still win.
Yeah, and I think like we talked a couple of times in the season of like idols kind of losing a lot of their power as people have like now even more so figured out how to play around them. And like Jesse, like pretty like Jesse basically like wrote the book on how to play around idols and somebody not finding them this season, where like out of the 3 idols in the game, he acquired 2 of them through social means and blindsided the people whose idols they were originally, and then he got the 3rd one to get flushed by like completely like mind fucking them. So like and like it essentially is like now has a final 6 and final 5 idol when he found 0 idols in the season. Like it's proof that like idols can be like very good tools in the game if used correctly, but they're definitely not like silver bullets, and great players can still play around them, even like in modern era where there's so many twists and turns.
And I think an event too of Janine and Cody holding that against Jesse is just is like really poor by them too, because in the end it's both of their faults for giving it up when they really didn't have to. So I like just to try to play out other scenarios where somehow maybe Jesse doesn't get votes. I think them two holding a grudge, which I don't see, at least especially not for Cody, would be really unfortunate too, because kind of what you said, that seems to be the template of how to maneuver these seasons, and so I think that has to kind of be seen and respected. Because outside that, like if you go back to 41 too, and I thought about it a lot, I was fine with Erica winning, but even that everybody left in that tribal, in the final tribal, none of them would have been as what's the word I'm looking for?
Dominant, maybe.
None of them would have been
Satisfying, maybe.
Satisfying, yeah. Sorry, I'm late. I got a cold.
Yeah.
It's all good. It's all good.
I had the word satisfied down last
I went on like a minute-long ramble to find my thought 2 minutes ago, so it is fine.
I think that's just like another flaw to point out about 41. Maybe it's not even really their fault, because they were still kind of maybe playing old Survivor with Marianne and Jesse. I think it's so much more satisfying because they played it so well. Where in Erica's situation, even though I thought that she was the right winner of that season, I didn't think that she did what she needed to do, made the moves quite like Jesse and Marianne. So it's glad to see, because like I said, I was very down on 41. We really got back up there again last season, and I think this season, even though I was a little down on it after the merge, I think it's really turned around the past like 2-3 weeks. Significantly. So that's good to know too, in terms of like the longevity of Survivor.
Yeah, I feel the same way, Dylan, and I wanted to ask you guys that, like, now that we've kind of seen like the end game, how are we feeling about Survivor 43 in context of the new era of Survivor? Ben, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, like obviously this episode brings it up for me a bit, because I just kind of expected the end game to kind of play out in a boring way, where Jesse kind of just like, like marches to the end, but like him being in a position where he could have kind of marched to the end if he wanted to and played it super safe, but still like getting that extra like marginal equity that he needs by making these super ballsy moves. Like I really, really appreciate that. And like as far as like a season where one player kind of has this like coronation like storyline goes, like I don't know if you could really tell the season differently, frankly, because of how like kind of just end-to-end dominating Jesse was. Like there's not really like a way that you could tell the story of the season better. And it's more of like a testament to how like locked down Jesse had like basically the whole season. More so than like, oh, the editors were lazy and they were just telling a straightforward story. I do think that they've basically done as well as they could to build up Cody and now probably Carla as like these like decoy threats in the end game. But yeah, no, it's just I think that like my expertise in being able to read the edit from so far out probably spoiled a lot of the potential excitement for me at least. But I think this will probably be one of those ones that will be really interesting to analyze on a rewatch and be able to like watch it from episode 1, knowing 100% that Jesse is the winner. Because like I do really want to like I'm like honestly struggling to find like even like 3 or 4 people who had like Ash Dominant as a win in the history of the show. Straight, like frankly, I can think of 3, but I don't even know if I can think of a 4th. So I think like right now, that's where I have.
I'll see if I can guess the 3. Kim, Boston Rob, and
Tyson.
Maybe Tyson could be
there. Tyson was in the driver's seat that whole season.
What are the 3, Ben?
The 3rd is Natalie Anderson.
Natalie Anderson. All right. I mean, you know, that's the way to my heart. Talking about
same here.
Like, I actually look. I actually kind of got flashbacks to the Natalie tells Jacqueline to play her idol move from this move tonight. Like they had very similar flavors to me in terms of just like wow, that actually like worked. Yeah. And like wow, what like that was a winner. That's like a winner move, like Dylan said. Like it's like that's something that a winner does.
I think it is great.
Speaking of satisfying winners, Natalie's always, do I say, is my number 1 too. Especially because I was never a big fan of Bailey and Missy that season, so that was ultra really good for me. Those are 3 really good picks. I think in terms of domination, I put for me, I have recency bias too because of the ones I've just watched, but I think Tyson's win itself was more dominant, but not as satisfying because he really was just in the driver's seat the whole season. Like he really, excluding maybe for 1 or 2 tribals, I just felt like he was fine that entire time. So that was really impressive. But Natalie's she had her whole revenge storyline with Jeremy getting out. So like that added like the extra element to it too. But
like the Kill Bill of Survivor.
So I'd have to agree. Yeah, it's just it's tough to really think of any others. It's that impressive.
Yeah, and Tyson's win in context of his 3 seasons was very satisfying as a big Tyson fan. But I totally get where you're coming from. I don't have much else to add personally, just because it seems so obvious as to what happens. There's not a lot of intrigue going into this finale, and if Jesse loses somehow, I'm sure we'll be trying to unspin the yarn of like what were they trying to tell us for a while.
What was the point?
Yeah, exactly. What was the point? But for now, it seems he's gonna take it home.
Yeah,
I'm calling it. If Jesse loses, it's to Carla and Fire, and I think that we get really mad at figuring out how Carla gets to the Fire, and so. But I've trusted production this season. I think production deserves credit too. They've impressed me this season with the things that they've done. They've made the changes that a lot of us have been saying that they needed to make to fix these types of seasons since 41. And so I am really happy with that. Going forward, I will say though, I do think that this style is going to get stale. So I will think that they're going to have to change something, whether that's bringing back older players and doing that type of season, or throwing some or changing the days. Although it seems like the days on the island where it's staying at 28. So that's not changing anytime soon. But so something's going to have to be done to the next 2 seasons because I do think that this particular format that we got in 42 and 43 is going to grow old. So that's like the one critique I do have. But production, I don't have any complaints about this season.
Yeah. No, I agree. I'm already over the 3 tribe, no swap merge into at 13 13. And I mean, you gotta keep players on their toes. I feel, you gotta have like, oh, we're on 2. Oh, now we're going to 3, or we're on 3 and we're swapping to 2, and then maybe we'll swap again later. Like those are always more interesting. I was going to say to me, but I just think they're just more interesting, period, because it gives you more permutations of potential storylines and alliances and all that.
I think if you're going to do it, the swap from 2 large groups to 3 small ones into the merge, I think is, to me, would be the better way
that
to
is
do
work.
it.
Yeah. Yeah. I like Cambodia's style of 2 to 3 and then back to 2 before the merge. Just like really shake stuff up. I thought that was fun.
Yeah, I don't know if they have the time to do that though anymore.
No, they definitely don't have the time to do that anymore.
But yeah, no, I agree. I'm kind of over 3 tribes. I mean, we've talked a couple of times this season about how like 3 tribes, like there's interesting things about it, but I think that like the cons probably outweigh the pros for the most part. And like, I understand why they've been doing it, but I personally would even rather have like a cast of 16 and have them start 8-8 than do anher 3
that'd be
tribes.
great.
But I know, like, not to like dive too deep into spoilers, like the 44 cast has leaked, and like it is another 3 tribe of 6 situation. So it is going to be another like and that's what we'd have expected anyways, because they usually do these seasons in pairs. So I wouldn't have expected any kind of major change until 45 anyways. But hopefully 45 is changing.
I'm like pretty convinced 45 has to be some sort of some sort of players coming back type scenario.
Yeah, I was gonna ask if what you guys thought about that. Do you think 45 is the move?
I'm desperate for it to see it live. Now I've only seen it in binging mode, so to be able to have players come back that I know live and kind of go through that. I'm really desperate for that. It seems like it's also the topic that gets most brought up on like Twitter and Reddit too, is the people coming back, whether it's really old players, whether it's people from recent seasons. I think that would be really interesting. And like I said, it adds a new element to where some of those players are coming into a newer game. So whether you have like quote unquote like old gen versus new gen in terms of Survivor, I think it would be really interesting. So that's my hope. Like Ben said, I already assumed 44 would be all new people with the same exact style of gameplay that we had in this season, which is fine. But I do think in 45 or 46, there's got to be a twist, and I really hope that it is the players coming back.
Yeah. And I think they have a great pool from 35 to 39 and then 41 to 44. Presumably there's some good people on 44, I would imagine. But I think they'll have like a really good pool to even just take all-stars from just that pool. We don't need to go back. Like, I know it's like, oh, we're closing the chapter on the first 40, but there is a group of players who I would like to see back from the back half of 30 for an all-star season. There are a lot of people who I think deserve another chance at Survivor.
Yeah, particularly a second chance style season. I don't want any returning winners. I think returning winners should wait until 50.
I am shocked that they did not go immediately back to that well, because it was very successful and it got the Survivor community so like amped up for that season.
That's, speaking of dominant wins, that's another very dominant season, was Jeremy in that season too. I'd probably rank him towards the end of the list that you came up with, Ben. But definitely that conversation.
Yeah, I do think that, like, I assume we're probably deeper into this next week after the actual finale, and we get kind of a little bit more context potentially. But it's very hard to compare returning player seasons and new player seasons. So like, if I'm just looking at like a first time player winning a game and like dominating a season front to back, like there's not a ton of competition, I think, for what I'm comparing Jesse to. Like I kind of like laid out, I think Kim and Natalie are probably the two that I'm most looking at as far as like people that I would compare him to. And even like Natalie had moments where she kind of lost control, like the Jeremy boot. So like, even though like up until like even like looking at Natalie's game up to the Jeremy boot and then after the Jeremy boot was like nearly flawless. Like she did have a round where she lost control of the game. So like even then, like I would say that Jesse might even be better than her because he at no point has even gotten close to losing control. So like,
and I will say I do think Kim played the best one-time game of all time, to the point where like she completely kneecapped herself for any future season because no one will ever allow Kim to like get any semblance of control, as we saw in Winners at War. But she really like came out and just played a completely masterful game in One World.
Yeah.
And maybe
so
Jesse will be right there with her. It'll be different. It'll be very different because of like the different formats and stuff and the different eras of Survivor in which they were played.
I think that you can also look at like the competition, because I know that like that's a big that's like usually the criticism, if any, can be levied against Kim, is that like the One World cast is like spectacularly weak. But then the conversation is like, oh, were they all bad players, or did Kim just make them look bad by being so good? I would lean towards they were mostly bad players. Whereas I think that Jesse has actually kind of bamboozled some like above average players in the season and made them look dumb to the degree that Kim made actual dumb people look dumb.
And like definitely even like the Survivor like IQ level, like just baseline is so much higher now than then. Like I feel like if I'm like picturing myself back then as a Survivor fan and being as plugged in as I was, I feel like my Survivor acumen or IQ to how the game should work in 24 is probably like now the baseline average of any player coming into Survivor. Whereas back then I was like a fucking freak like I am now about Survivor, who's just like completely obsessed with it and like has spent, countless nights just discussing and like going over scenarios of games that will never happen for it,
Yeah. I don't know. Anything else, I guess?
I like your shirt, Ben.
Yeah, very nice shirt.
Yeah, no, I got a stain from dinner on my shirt that I was wearing before, and then I was like, oh, let me just put my
this is perfect.
So I was like, okay, not a big deal.
The CBS store?
I think so. I got it as a Christmas gift, so I don't know 100%. I think it's from the CBS store, yeah.
I like it.
No, to those of the simulcasts, I apologize. My focus is apparently another issue with my camera again. I can't figure it out. I assume it's because I don't have my overhead light on, but for the price point I paid for this camera, I was hoping for no focusing issues. So apologies for that.
So that's all good.
10 countries we're being listened to in right now. So
yes, we got our Spotify rap. It said we're listening to you in 10 countries, and we very much appreciate that.
Aloha, like that was it's going to be another country.
That was Cody is something else.
Iowa, or wherever he's from. Basically, the second Hawaii, we say.
Oh man, but yeah. Other than that, watch White Lotus, kind of Survivor related. Very good this season. It's actually really, really good. Totally to the point where I'm considering recording the Dolphins game to watch White Lotus live and then catch up to the Dolphins game on Sunday night. Yeah.
It's my favorite tidbit is everybody's telling me how much they love White Lotus. I'm like, hey, Survivor inspired
Mike White. He did it. There's survivors in it. It's great. It's really great.
I not to get all wicked good show, and I won't drag this up, but I finally started Squid Game. I love it. I've been on a Korean film binge, and so finally I was like, screw it, and so I threw on Squid Game. I watched 4 episodes between last night and recording now, so I love it. It's great.
Yeah, obviously it's like a little like, I don't know if it's overhyped, but it's just like so big a part of the cultural zeitgeist. But I will say, like, last year watching it, that was like one of those rare shows where it's like I have to watch the next episode right now. I need to know what's gonna happen. It's so good.
I think so too. Now that we're down to the one more episode left, I think definitely Wicked Good Show will probably pick up a little bit more in the winter time, between 43 and 44. So that's
we got stuff to talk about for sure.
Indeed. Yeah.
And then I think I'm going. I can announce it here tomorrow night. I'm going to launch a Last of Us post show. So if you guys watch Last of Us, definitely come on. Talk that. Don't have the name yet. Hopefully we'll get the name this week, get all the logo, get all the social medias locked down and all that. But I'm so excited for that show. I love the games so much. I think 2 of the greatest games ever made. And I'm very excited to hopefully. I mean, I didn't watch the Sonic movies, so I think Detective Pikachu is the best like video game adaptation right now to me. But hopefully to get like a very like good video game adaptation going.
Uncharted was fine. Uncharted.
Oh yeah, that was fine.
There's not a great pool to select from, unfortunately.
Well, I've heard Arcane is good.
Oh yeah,
I've also heard good things of Arcade. Yeah.
Also, I don't play.
Yeah, League.
So that's
I was like, is it Dota or League? I got a 50% shot here.
Yeah, trailer looks very, very good. So I'm excited. Very excited for that.
Yeah. And Resident Evil will always have a special place in my heart for all the just horrendous adaptations they've put out over the years.
Yeah.
Yeah. Other than that, Wicked Good Sports. I'm there all the time, almost every day of the week, talking about sports. We had a lot of soccer coverage, obviously, with the World Cup. And we have our first spin-off podcast that I'm not a part of under the Wicked Good umbrella. That's called Swinging at Shins. It's a Premier League podcast that currently, of course, covering the World Cup. So go check out that over on Wicked Good Sports, and then also on the Swinging at Shins channel. I'm sure they'll appreciate it that we gave them a little shout.
So I will say my exposure to them was through TikTok on the channel there, and I really like them as a duo.
They know so much about soccer.
Very knowledgeable about what they're talking about, which is really nice. Like, so you don't feel like there's like someone forcing it or anything like that, which is nice. So yeah.
It came out of I was hosting the shows on the Wicked Good Sports channel with both of them, and we talked for like 45 minutes about soccer, and I was like, I can't do this every week. Like, I don't know anything about soccer, and I already do like all these other shows. I can't add another 45-minute podcast for soccer for something I don't know about, you know.
It was to the point where I was seeing the clips, because I saw the most recent clip that was up there of just them two, and you wrote on there, and I was like, oh, these guys look familiar. Where are they? Like they're on like the TikTok page. I was like, oh shit, those are the guys that brought did the podcast with. So
yeah, there's actually a Wicked Good Sports TikTok of them, of which I was on, but I didn't say anything. I just edited myself out to make the clip look better in the vertical format. I'm like, I'm giving nothing in this, so I'm out.
Sorry, you're doing God's work, being the moderator, so it's okay. We would be able to do this show without Ben.
Yeah,
although Ben knows a little more about Survivor than you do about soccer, so
I would hope so. I've been watching it for the majority of my life, so I would hope that I know more. Yeah. I guess the other things that we're talking about doing hopefully is Brian and I have talked about bringing back Influencer Chat, which is our
so excited
coverage of The Circle, which is the Netflix adaptation of a show that started as a UK reality show. I stand by that the UK version is better than the US version, but the US version is still pretty good as well. And so we covered a couple seasons, and then the scheduling of it coming out on Netflix really, bumped up against Big Brother and Survivor and really unfortunate timings. And we're like, okay, we can't do 3 podcasts at once. This is stupid. And so Influencer Chat was unfortunately the one that got axed, even though we got really good numbers on the ones that we did previously. Season 5 is coming up shortly, and Brian and I will hopefully be back to cover it. And then also we talked about potentially getting back into covering Big Brother Canada because
that'll be exciting.
I lamented forever on every Big Brother US podcast. I lamented that we covered Big Brother Celebrity Season 3, but not Big Brother Canada 10. When Big Brother Canada 10 was one of my all-time favorite Big Brother seasons, and it was the one time we didn't cover BB Can, and so I was like, okay, well, hopefully we get BB Can 11 really good, and there's like an outside chance it's All Stars. Who knows? I think BB Can will actually do a good All Star season if so. So
we rolled the dice. We're like, oh, we can only cover one of these. We only have the bandwidth for one. The other celebrity good Big Brothers were pretty good, and then it was the worst celebrity Big Brother by far. So it is what it is.
Yeah. And yeah, like I would love to be able to hopefully have Brian watch BB Can 10 before BB Can 11 comes out, so that we can use that as context for when we talk about that season. Otherwise, I think that's pretty much it.
Well, we got a wicked good show.
Yep.
Where we're gonna bitch about the DCEU. I don't know if that's what it's called anymore because everything has changed.
Everything's
I do think
canceled.
it's not the DCU. I don't fucking know. Nothing but content here, baby. I very much still want to do our House of Dragon recap. We have some time for that.
We have a year.
We have roughly maybe even 2 years, so we'll get to that eventually. But check us out on everything, please. We're doing well, not me. Everyone's doing a lot of great work. I talked a big game, so I'll eventually get in there. But everyone's doing a lot of good stuff, so check it out.
Absolutely. Thanks for watching, everybody.